The check was for $3,000, triple my usual rate for what should have been a simple real estate shoot. I should have known something was wrong when Mrs. Henley insisted on cash and wouldn't meet my eyes when she handed me the address. "Just get it done before dark," she'd said, her weathered hands trembling as she counted out the bills. "Please." Now, standing at the base of Beacon Hill with my camera equipment, I understood her urgency. The Victorian mansion loomed against the dying October sky like a diseased tooth, its broken shutters hanging at impossible angles, ivy crawling up its sides like grasping fingers. But it wasn't the house that made my skin crawl. It was the valley below. Every single home had turned on their lights, not just porch lights or living room lamps, but every light they possessed. The small town of Millbrook blazed like a landed constellation, and it wasn't even fully dark yet. My phone buzzed. No signal. Perfect. I grabbed my gear and climbed the winding path. The closer I got, the quieter it became. No birds, no insects. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath around the house. The front door stood slightly ajar, paint peeling like dead skin. "Hello," I called out, pushing it open. My voice echoed in the empty hallway. "Anyone here?" The realtor had said the place had been empty for 30 years, since old Marcus Thorne died. Looking around the dusty interior, I believed it. Furniture sat covered in white sheets like ghosts at a dinner party. Family portraits lined the walls, stern-faced Victorians whose eyes seemed to track my movement. I set up my tripod in the main parlor and started shooting. Through my viewfinder, the room looked ordinary enough. Dust motes danced in the amber light filtering through grimy windows. I clicked off several shots, checking the LCD screen on my camera's back. My blood ran cold. In the digital image, a figure stood by the fireplace, a tall man in a dark coat, his face obscured by shadow. I spun around. The room was empty. "Must be a glitch," I muttered, but my hands were shaking as I lined up another shot. Click. Review. There he was again, closer now. Close enough to see he was wearing clothes from another era, a Victorian gentleman with hollow sockets where his eyes should be. I lowered the camera, my heart hammering. The room remained empty, but something had changed. The air felt thicker, charged with malevolent energy. The shadows in the corners seemed deeper, more solid. Outside, the sun was sinking fast. I needed to work quickly. I moved to the dining room, then the kitchen, snapping photos as fast as I could set up shots. With each image, the figure appeared clearer, and he wasn't alone anymore. A woman in a tattered wedding dress stood behind him. Children in nightgowns clustered around their feet. An entire family of the dead, growing more solid with each photograph. And they were following me. In the parlor, they'd been by the fireplace. In the dining room, they stood at the table. In the kitchen, they crowded around the doorway I just walked through. My camera battery indicator flashed red. 20% remaining. I checked my watch, 6:47 p.m. Sunset was at 7:15. Racing upstairs, I tried to stay calm, just finish the job and get out. But the second floor shots revealed the horrible truth. The ghostly family wasn't just following me through the house. They were hurting me. In every room, they positioned themselves between me and the exit, driving me deeper into the mansion's bowels. The master bedroom made me gasp. Through my viewfinder, I saw them all clearly now. Marcus Thorne, for it had to be him, stood at the foot of an antique bed. His eye sockets weren't empty after all. Twin points of red light burned where his pupils should be. his wife beside him, her wedding dress stained with something dark. 3 children, their faces blue and swollen. But worst of all was what I saw in their ghostly tableau. They were recreating something. The children lay on the bed, still and peaceful. The wife held a pillow. Marcus gripped a carving knife, its blade clean and sharp despite decades of rust. A murder-suicide. The whole family taken in this very room. My camera's flash fired automatically in the dim light, and for one horrible instant, the ghosts turned their attention directly to me. Marcus Thorne smiled, his teeth black as coal. The battery died. In the sudden darkness, I heard it, the soft whisper of feet on floorboards. They were moving, coming for me. I fumbled for my phone's flashlight, but the screen remained black, dead as everything else on this cursed hill. I stumbled toward the staircase, using memory and what little light filtered through the grimy windows. Behind me, the footsteps grew louder, more numerous. The family was walking again after 30 years of waiting. Waiting for what? For someone to document their story, or for someone to join them. I reached the main floor as the last rays of sunlight died. Through the windows, I could see Millbrook blazing below, every light they had burning against whatever darkness lived on this hill. The front door slammed shut. I yanked the handle. Locked. The windows were painted shut, the glass too thick to break easily. I was trapped with the dead, and night was falling fast. In the growing darkness, I heard them descending the stairs. Slow, deliberate steps, the whisper of fabric against wood, a child's giggle, high and cold. "We've been so lonely," a voice whispered. Marcus Thorne, his words echoing from empty air. 30 years is a long time to wait for company. I pressed my back against the door, feeling for the deadbolt. My fingers found it, turned it, but the door wouldn't budge. Something was holding it shut from the outside. "The camera," another voice, his wife. Such a clever device. Each picture brought us closer, closer to life, to warmth. My hands shook as I tried to restart my camera. If each photo had made them stronger, maybe I could reverse it somehow. Delete the images, send them back to whatever hell they'd crawled from. The screen flickered to life, 5% battery remaining. In the faint LCD glow, I saw them clearly now without the camera's lens. The Thorne family stood in a semicircle around me, their forms translucent, but growing more solid by the second. The children reached toward me with grasping fingers. Mrs. Thorne still clutched her pillow, and Marcus raised his carving knife. "Don't be afraid," he said, his voice like grinding stone. "It only hurts for a moment, then you'll be part of the family, part of the house, forever." I scrolled frantically through my camera's menu, looking for the delete function. The screen dimmed, 3% battery. There, I found the first image, Marcus by the fireplace. My finger hovered over the delete button. "I wouldn't do that if I were you," he said, stepping closer. The knife gleamed in the camera's glow. "Those pictures are the only thing keeping us solid enough to touch you. Without them, we'd fade back to shadows, and shadows can be so much more creative in their methods." The LCD screen flickered, 1% battery. I had seconds to choose. Delete the images and face whatever horrors incorporeal ghosts could inflict, or keep them solid and face the knife. Outside, a car horn honked, long, desperate blasts. Someone was coming up the hill. Marcus turned toward the sound, distracted for just an instant. I made my choice. I deleted the first image. He screamed as his form wavered, becoming translucent. I deleted the second, the third, working as fast as my shaking fingers could manage. With each deleted photo, the family grew fainter, their cries of rage echoing through the house. The battery died just as I reached the last image. In the sudden darkness, I felt cold fingers brush my neck, barely there, but real enough to leave frost on my skin. A child's laughter echoed from everywhere and nowhere. The car horn grew louder. Headlights swept across the windows as a vehicle roared up the driveway. The front door's deadbolt clicked open by itself. I didn't wait to see who was coming. I grabbed my equipment and ran, bursting through the door as Mrs. Henley's pickup truck skidded to a stop in the gravel. "Get in," she screamed. "Now." I threw my gear in the back and jumped into the passenger seat. She floored it, tires spinning as we raced down the hill. In the rearview mirror, I saw the house growing dark again, its windows empty and lifeless. "I told you to finish before dark," she said, her knuckles white on the steering wheel. "The family," I gasped. "The Thorns, they killed each other in that house." She nodded grimly. "Marcus went mad one winter, thought the town was coming for him, killed his wife and children, then himself, but that's not why we stay away." "Then why?" We reached the bottom of the hill, back among the blazing lights of Millbrook. She pulled over and turned to face me, her eyes haunted. "Because every 30 years, on the anniversary of their deaths, they need someone new. Someone to complete their family portrait. Someone to take the place of whoever they took before." She pointed to a missing person poster taped to a lamppost. A young man with kind eyes and a camera around his neck. Real estate photographer. Went missing exactly 30 years ago, same night as his predecessor. My blood turned to ice, but I deleted the photos. I sent them back. "For now," she said softly. "But you were in that house, boy. You breathed their air, walked their halls. You're connected now, and they'll be waiting." I looked at my camera, its dead screen reflecting the streetlights like black water. "How long do I have?" 30 years, she said. "Maybe less, if someone else is fool enough to take pictures up there before then." As she drove me back to town, I caught glimpses of families through lit windows. Children doing homework, parents cooking dinner, ordinary people living ordinary lives. Lives that would continue long after mine ended. I never took another photograph, sold my equipment the next day and found work in an office, as far from cameras as I could get. But sometimes, on dark nights when the wind howls down from Beacon Hill, I hear them calling. The Thorn family, incomplete once again. Waiting patiently for their next photographer. 3 weeks later, Mrs. Henley received another call. A young woman from the city, eager to photograph the charming Victorian mansion she'd found listed online. The pay was good, triple the usual rate. Mrs. Henley tried to warn her off, but the photographer had already left for the hill. That night, every light in Millbrook burned a little brighter.